The box office is working, and we are going into a May that is going to get a lot of people very excited. This is the Box Office Podcast. I'm Daniel Loria, the editorial director of Box Office Pro, the pulse of theatrical exhibition. And in this week's episode, we are going over all the wide releases coming to a theater near you in the month of May with our monthly box office preview episode. But before that, we will be going over a couple of news items and highlights from Michael's opening weekend. I am joined once again by my colleagues and co-hosts, Chad Kennerk and Pahle from Box Office Pro. Guys, welcome back. You both had cinema visits last week. Rebecca, you went to a new movie theater, but you didn't watch a movie.
I didn't watch a movie. They were screening the Michael trailer, so I saw that. But it was the Stewart Cinema in Cafe, created by Emmeline Stewart, who's on the board of Art House Convergence. He's been heavily involved in the independent side, really an advocate for the indie film cinema experience and ecosystem. And she opened this new cinema in Long Island City, which is 20 minutes away from me on the subway. So I had a vested interest in going to check it out. Yeah, they weren't screening movies yet, but had a little opening shindig. It's a nice space. I miss having a movie theater that close. There's the Museum of the Moving Image, the MoMI Museum I'm kind of close to, but that one that can get a little bit pricey. And I was really impressed by the Stewart. Just seems very community focused. Going to be a lot of Q&As, a lot of events. So yeah, I'm excited to see where the programming goes on that.
We love to support Emmeline and all her efforts here in the world of exhibition up in New York City. And Chad, down in Denver, I heard that you went to go catch The Devil Wears Prada 2 last week.
At the AMC 9+ Co 10 in their Dolby. It's a surprising sequel. We'll talk about it a little more later on, but I was happy to see it's not just a rehash of the original. It's thoughtful continuation of the story and the characters.
Will it depress viewers, i.e. me, with its incisive commentary on the 2026 media landscape?
Slightly, I think
Okay,
slightly.
all
There's
right.
definitely things in there that you'll resonate with.
Like, oh, I'm excited. I'm going to see that one. I keep saying, Eric, I'll go alone. You don't have to go with me. You don't have to see it. I can see it by myself. He's like, oh, no, I'll go see. He hasn't seen the first one. He's like, no, I've got it. I know what it is. Like, I have seen some, I don't want to say bro movies, but I've seen some movies for him. So I got to show him Devil Wears Prada before we go out for the sequel.
There's been so much interest for this movie. We're going to be going into that weekend forecast when we get to the May preview part of this episode, but this might end up being one of the highest grossing movies of the year, by the way it's been selling. It really has been a great success story.
The fact that it might outgross the Star Wars coming out this summer, like, that's a strange sentence to say, but a nice one to say. I like it.
I'm betting on that. I'm betting on Devil Wears Prada 2 to outperform the same studio's Star Wars entry this year. And by the way, Star Wars hasn't had an entry in cinemas for how long?
2019.
No.
Yeah.
There hasn't been a post-pandemic Star Wars cinema event.
They went all in on the Disney Plus, the streaming of it all. I mean, everybody that I talked to about The Mandalorian and Grogu is like excited with the asterisk being like, oh, the show was great and then it got really bad. So I don't know how many people are gonna, like, Chad,
that was my take on it too. It was really good at first. It felt like, oh yeah, this is what Star Wars like used to feel like, and then it goes a different direction.
I've heard from other people like less enthusiastic about, but we'll see.
Hey, we got to figure out how that plays out coming out in late May. And of course, we're going to be discussing all these titles in the May preview part of our episode, but we have to start with the last weekend of April because, guys, we just have a new record holder for the biggest opening weekend for a music biopic. That is coming from Michael, the Antoine Fuqua film released by Lionsgate last Friday. We weren't sure where this was going to end up. Pre-sales got off to a very hot start, then significantly cooled off to the point that some circuits that we were talking to were saying, hey, we're a little concerned. This isn't selling. And then something happened. That last week going into release, that Monday through Thursday, we started hearing a different story. All of a sudden, by the time we recorded last week's episode of the podcast, out of nowhere, we said that $80 million was in range. And we went into opening weekend thinking, hey, this could top 80. this could do something like 85 million. Everyone's happy. Well, guess what? That 97% popcorn meter score, which I can't believe is a real thing that exists out there, but that's basically saying that's the Rotten Tomatoes audience score, paired with a cinema score of A minus, completely ignored all the critical complaints about this film and helped drive walk-in business to this movie that opened to a whopping $97 million, blasting through every single expectation that we had pre-release. And this, to be honest, guys, was the one movie we were all concerned about, because there's a universe, and we all know this, where this is the wrong type of Michael Jackson biopic and it opens to 40 something million and the conversation ends there. The opposite happened. Reshoots happened. A retooled version of the film opened to a fantastic, fantastic reception from audiences. Critics, I can understand why they didn't sign up for it.
Yeah, which I mean, that's Bohemian Rhapsody all over again. It's Graham King, music biopic.
The estate is involved, crucially.
I do wonder at what point the decision was made to cut it off in the 80s. I mean, maybe that was part of to avoid some of the legal troubles, maybe just lop off the story before you get to that part. I'm not sure, but definitely, I mean, I'm curious to see if a sequel ever does happen.
Well, we have to see how many more weekends of grosses it's going to bring in, because it was a fantastic start. The audience reception makes me think there's going to be a strong hold in week 2. If you look at some of the demographic data that our friends at Lionsgate sent us, 61% of the audience on opening weekend was female. I mean, that's going to drive you to success. By the way, that's going to drive us to a fantastic weekend in this frame as well. But more importantly, we talk about the Gen Z audiences, how important they are. But don't forget about the Sleeping Giant, because in this past weekend, 2/3 of that Michael audience was over the age of 25. They were able to connect to the people that looked at Michael's legacy, music first, and made their movie-going decision based on their fandom and appreciation for those songs. They connected with that audience. They made sure that audience was on board. The word of mouth got out there from other moviegoers saying, hey, if you want a Michael Jackson concert experience, this is it. It was a fantastic run as we saw those numbers come in. And if you look at the overseas performance on this title, we had some really, really great numbers as well. This film being released by Universal in most of the key markets overseas. Our UK and Ireland opening weekend blowing past our own forecasting expectations with a $15 million opening weekend in first place. Second place overseas was France with a $10 million debut, with third going to Mexico with 9.7 million. Brazil finishing in fourth place with 8.1 million. And then just sitting shy of the $8 million mark is Italy with 7.98 million. Guys, this was a marketing win. This was a film win. This was also a massive question mark heading into this year. And now we're on a roll. The box office is working, and we are going into a May that is going to get a lot of people very excited. Let's start with this coming weekend, because as Rebecca already made plans to watch Devil Wears Prada 2, as Chad already said, it's a movie that connected, that is working well with the audiences that saw it. This is going to be one of the biggest weekends of the year, as we're expecting Michael to have a holdover frame around the $50 million mark, so somewhere in the 50s. And we are now boldly saying what we've been hinting at for weeks: it's a $100 million weekend for Devil Wears Prada 2. The pre-sales are that high, and we might even be lowballing it by saying it's going to be $100 million. It can be significantly over the $100 million mark as we finish up Sunday. I don't want to overhype it too much. We'll all be happy with that benchmark. Even if it opens somewhere to 90 or 80, we're talking about a massive hit. Chad, you saw this movie last week. What do you think is responsible for this sort of anticipation for a title that's been out of circulation for over a decade now?
I think nostalgia. The audiences that saw the original or found the original later on, it's been 20 years, which is hard to believe.
It is such a rewatchable movie.
Yeah, it's very
TV
rewatchable. There's the Miranda Priestley memes, I think, are a thing. So it has enough nods to that nostalgia too, but it's not a rebootquel. It's a true sequel that takes
That's
that really
refreshing.
picks up and
That's
yeah,
refreshing.
yeah.
And I think it also, these grosses, or at least these pre-sales, bode well for Universal's Meet the Fockers release in Thanksgiving, which is another franchise that made an impact 15 plus years ago and is coming back with a true sequel, with a new star, in this case, for the Universal title that is supposed to just help reestablish things. Rebecca, you mentioned that you were a fan, but maybe not a huge fan of the original. Why is this on your radar where maybe the movie itself isn't something that you immediately thought of for the last decade plus?
Yeah, like I'm not knee jerk. Like I think it's honestly just the movie, it grows on you. It's a very good, it's just a good dang movie. It's just a good movie. I'm excited to see Meryl Streep kind of return from the depths of small screen, limited series, TV shows, that kind of thing. I mean, it's just nice to see those characters come back. I mean, Emily Blunt has gotten so much more of a presence in Hollywood since that first one. So I think it's a boring answer, but I think that's what it comes down to. Is that the movie's just really good.
And hey, that's enough for a sequel, regardless of when it comes out. That's going to be leading the pack here in the first weekend of May. That is joined by a trio of wide releases that are more, let's say, niche based. You've got the Andy Serkis Animal Farm adaptation coming out from Angel. We're expecting that to do in the mid to high single digits. Hokum from Neon, folk horror starring Adam Scott. That opening between 3 to 5 million, basically your core horror crowd. As I understand, it's light on scares, but big on ambiance. So we have to have the right sort of expectation for something like that.
But that said, it's by Neon, who distributed a lot of Oz Perkins stuff, and Oz Perkins like does that, or at least did before. So I feel like the Neon's marketing, it's trained its audience at this point, I think, as to what to expect for some of this more slow-paced horror.
And then counter-programming here this coming weekend from Magenta Light Studios is Deep Water, from the folks that brought you 47 Meters Down, that shark title. This is a genre play, I think, that's going to gross in the, let's say, $2 million, $3 million range on opening weekend is what we're expecting. Again, movies that are here to build out a slate, so it's not just the one behemoth opening. There's that, there's new niche movies playing, and there's what we're expecting to be a very solid hold from Michael. And if you have kids, Mario's still chugging along, making money. Project Hail Mary with an extended exclusivity window still out in theaters. There are so many choices to start off this month. We're expecting a fantastic weekend. And it doesn't end there, because on the week of May 8th, you've got a really good double feature from Amazon MGM, something called The Sheep Detectives, which is how would you describe this based on what we saw at CinemaCon, Rebecca? It is a whimsical, sheep, bucolic mystery.
I'm going to do the annoying X meets Y. It's Knives Out meets Paddington.
Ah, you did much better than I did. That is fantastic. Yes, that's exactly what it felt like. And that is, of course, going up head to head against, get over here, Mortal Kombat 2, which will give us a nice and toasty weekend at the box office. I already bought my 4DX ticket at the Regal Times Square to see this. I cannot wait for that experience.
I think the Billie Eilish doc comes out that same weekend, and that's going to get those IMAX screens. So I think that's what I'm doing. But I think Mortal Kombat 2 might be like a weekday play for me.
That's an immersive seating one. Go with immersive seating on that. Go find a screen in Luma 4D Emotion. Go find a screen in D-Box. The 4DX is out there. Go find a seat that moves for Mortal Kombat 2, and you're going to have a good time. Or else
you're going to have to move it by how,
that's the only way. Yeah. I will give anyone a pro tip. If you are going to immersive seating, when the first Mortal Kombat in this remake iteration, so not the 1990s one, but the 2021, 22 one opened. Yeah. That was the same weekend when movie theaters opened here in New York City. And to celebrate, I went to drink 4 beers in the East Village and then got a 4DX ticket at the Regal Union Square to watch that Mortal Kombat. Don't do it after having several alcoholic beverages. You will regret it. You will miss a good chunk of the movie by going to the restroom.
You didn't have your 4DX legs then.
Did not have my 4DX legs.
This is a post-Twisters world. I just don't try to drink anything or eat anything when I'm in 4DX because it's going to end up
all over
everywhere.
the place. It's
Yeah.
not an alcohol-friendly platform. Let's put it that way, which is fine. Not everything has to be. Let's look now ahead to the weekend of May 15th, because things are going to be a little bit slower in terms of the big box office numbers. Of course, we are expecting Mortal Kombat to open between 45 and 55 million on that May 8th weekend. So right around the $50 million mark is the sweet spot. That's the way we're tracking it, which is going to be another fantastic opening weekend. But with so many great debuts coming sequentially, that weekend of May 15th, things are going to slow down a little bit. We have a trio of titles that are going to be a little bit more genre based. From Amazon MGM, you've got Is God Is. That was a standout film from that CinemaCon 2025 presentation that Chad and I went to. A revenge thriller from a writer-director, Alicia Harris, that looks compelling, to say the least.
The trailer looks great. It looks so fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Chad and I were looking at each other when we first saw that footage, and I was really excited. I am curious, Chad, as to why we haven't seen too much more since April or March even 2025 about this title.
Because I felt like it had some Tarantino vibes, some Kill Bill vibes. But yeah, we really haven't seen or heard a lot about it other than the trailer.
Yeah, I think it was like included, the title card was maybe in a montage at this year's Amazon presentation.
Yeah, and it's one of those titles that's just like too close to feature in a presentation that goes into the future. But it was a standout from last year's event, and I just wish there was a way we could have followed up that early buzz. I haven't seen it. I can only assume that picking the weekend between Mortal Kombat and Mandalorian is sort of sandwiched in there as a counter programmer. So it's not built to be that breakthrough title maybe we once thought it could be, but it's still a movie I'm going to go see. I mean, everything about it seemed interesting.
2 of the 3 movies are from first-time feature directors. They're both based on original stories. It's the kind of thing we've said that we want to see more of at the box office, and specifically that we want to see more of these get the theatrical run rather than just going straight to Netflix. That second film being from Curry Barker, Obsession. I have heard really great things about this one.
I can't wait for this one. Yeah, this is something that was picked up at Toronto 2025. Either picked up at Toronto 25 or screened at Toronto 25, but Obsession from Curry Barker, this horror thriller, has been something in the film connoisseur community now for over 6 months.
People have definitely been waiting for it. I kept seeing the people at CinemaCon walking around with the One Wish willow, the like prop thing that you breathe into in the film that da-da-da-da-da, watch the trailer.
Well, the high concept here, we can explain it. The high concept in Obsession is a guy has a crush on a girl, doesn't know how to ask her out. So he gets, Tom Hanks in Big Magical Wish. Hey, how can I have this girl have a crush on me? And the title of the movie is Obsession. You can take it from there. It looks like something really fun and like an amusement park ride to really enjoy yourself in here in mid-May.
It looks creepy. I'm definitely excited for it. And then we have a Guy Ritchie movie with, I think, Henry Cavill.
And that movie's title is In the Gray, coming from Guy Ritchie, director that already has an established track record. Henry Cavill usually in his films. We'll see how the trio of those films play. We're not expecting anything above the single-digit millions for each of them. They're all, I think, in the calendar in a quiet spot for a reason, and they are acting as counter programmers to fill out the slate. So no big swings there. Hopefully we got something very memorable from as many of them as possible. And that leads us into the May 22nd release of The Mandalorian and Grogu, title that can really go either way. At this point, now that Michael performed as well as it did, and we had open questions on Michael for as long as we did, does Mandalorian and Grogu open above the $97.2 million debut of Michael? I'm not sure. I'm not ready to sign that. I think maybe 90 million makes sense for this, or are we talking about a 100 million benchmark for these Star Wars movies? It's been, 7 years, 6 years?
I have a bet with Eric as to whether this movie makes over 100 million opening weekend and the loser has to buy the other dinner. So I have a vested interest in one of these two. So I'm not going to speak on it. It's under.
I feel that way too. I hate to say it. I mean, Chad, how do you feel this is going to end up? Because maybe we're a little cynical coming into things.
The first Star Wars movie in 7 years, like that could be a good thing. I mean, that could be. I mean, speaking of the nostalgia play, it does. Yeah, and it just feels so strange to say a Star Wars movie might open under 100 million.
It's a huge litmus test for the franchise. And I mean, maybe there's goodwill. We are heading into the 50th anniversary of the original Star Wars next year. I do think people are excited or want to see Star Wars on the big screen again, but Mandalorian and Grogu, I don't know.
That's what people say when they go to the box office and they look at the title, Mandalorian and Grogu. Like,
What is that?
What
What
is
is
it? Yeah.
And we don't have to go that far back to find proof that this doesn't always work. Solo, a Star Wars story, opened in 2018 to $84 million on the same weekend in the schedule. So the last time we had one of these spin-offs come in out of anywhere. Now, true, it didn't have the boost from streaming. I'll grant it that. But in 2018, when everything's firing on all cylinders, when Star Wars can do no wrong, or actually in the middle of Star Wars doing everything wrong again, Solo comes out, debuts to 84 million, plays out to 213 million domestic. I mean, with everything happening, I think something like 95 million makes sense for Mandalorian and Grogu. I think it's competitive. I think it's a good opening weekend, but we have an example of what happens with a movie like this in this spot when everything's working. I don't see how this is going to be substantially better. I think this opens below Michael and below Devil Wears Prada 2.
What Mandalorian and Grogu needs to do is just be a straightforward adventure story where you don't have to know anything about the series or any of the lore or backstory. You can just go in, enjoy the movie.
I wonder if it's going to be another like Fantastic Four first step situation with like an okay first week because everybody's going out because like, oh, it's a Star Wars movie. You have to go see a Star Wars movie. And then that second week drop is steep.
Yeah, just bottoms out. We'll see that on the weekend of May 22nd. And then for the movies, we're really excited that weekend. Let's start with the Paramount title Passenger with that nice jump scare. Again, there's a horror movie. It feels like every 3 days in this business. I'm not complaining. They've got an audience to them. Rebecca, you're our maybe biggest horror fan here. Is this something that your friends are talking about?
No, this one isn't so much on my radar, I gotta be honest.
Yeah, Chad, for you, I mean, Andre Overdahl, the director, he had, let's say, decent returns with a couple of movies that weren't supposed to do well. The Last Voyage of the Demeter, I think some people scoffed at, but at the same time, some people really liked back in 2023. He had Troll Hunter back in 2010 that had a nice cult following, and then a couple of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark movies in between. How do you feel about a title like this?
That trailer that you mentioned with the jump scare did play really well.
I don't get an idea from the trailer what the movie is. Like I like the trailer that's just more maybe like one long scene that's more vibes based, but I hope we get a non-vibes based trailer as we get closer so you can kind of see more what you're getting into.
To me, it kind of seems like an It Follows, but with a hitchhiking ghost.
That's one of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes.
Yeah, no, that might be interesting. On the horror end, we've got another film currently in the booking process from our friend Joe Garrell and Western Film Services, Corporate Retreat. If you were at CinemaCon, you probably saw the immersive installation is maybe one way of putting it. They had folks dressed up in like bloody outfits, giving out merch at CinemaCon, which I thought was fascinating, a really cool way to promote a movie.
I have my little eyeball, my little stress ball eyeball.
You got
thing.
An eyeball stress ball. They had like syringe pens, right, that they were giving out. It was a cool little installation. This movie's currently booking for opening in that same weekend. I think that can surprise folks with an opening weekend, let's say around $1 or $2 million, right? Playing a nice niche role on the schedule. We're talking about counter programmers here to the big monster Mandalorian and Grogu. And I think Corporate Retreat can definitely be seen in that light. Now, for more specialty audiences, it's not a Star Wars movie, but art houses can enjoy their equivalent in a new Boots Riley title, I Love Boosters, a movie that is probably one of my most anticipated films of the year. This is the guy that brought you Sorry to Bother You, a movie that everybody liked until that thing happened. And then there was a dividing line where a lot of people either fell off the film completely or liked it even more. That's the type of movie I love, a movie that's going to push you in the third act. And that's what Boots Riley does. I love what I saw at CinemaCon. Rebecca, how do you feel about this movie?
I'm excited for this one. It seems like Neon's marketing team, again, is really hitting it right on the head with this one, going to colleges, really letting this one build organically. Boots Riley himself going to screenings and various independent theaters to talk it up. I mean, it's just nice to see a movie with an original concept. And I'm looking forward to this one.
I love costume design, and there were a couple of pieces on display there at CinemaCon, right?
Oh yeah, the big like stuffed Michelin Man almost hoodie sweatsuit set. That's how I dress when I get on an airplane. I just like wear 18 layers of my clothes. So,
and then let's go to the ambient horror musings of Backrooms, a new A24 title based on, what was it, like a video of a dude playing a game. I don't know exactly how to sell this movie other than it's going to be a horror movie where vibes come first and probably scares come second. That sounds like my sort of event.
I've heard good things about this one. This is one that I'm excited for. I mean, Chiwetel Ejiofor and Utter It's a great cast. Yeah, I mean, you love liminal spaces. This is your catnip.
Yeah, this is Liminal Spaces, the movie, right? And I personally can't wait to see something like that on the big screen. I've got tickets for that as well. See, a lot of my movie going this month outside of Mortal Kombat is going to be for genre movies. And that's what makes me excited. Finally, I'm going to be going to the movies a lot more often. We just have to wait till May for that to start happening. There is another big movie coming out on the weekend of May 29th, coming out from Sony. High concept Trading Places for Married Couple, an ensemble comedy about a dad who leaves his career to support his wife's newfound business success via Shark Tank. We've got a cool ensemble comedy cast for this movie, The Breadwinner, a movie that we expect to open around the $10 million mark, give or take. Backrooms, meanwhile, I think that's going to be a sleeper hit. I think we could see something like $20 million plus from Backrooms. But The Breadwinner, that's the sort of movie for folks that already watched Mandalorian and Grogu and want to see something else.
The clip we saw at CinemaCon, it was cute. It's going to be a PG movie, coming out sort of as summer kicks off. Maybe kids are getting out of school. We needed a spot in the calendar.
Absolutely. I think we're all looking forward to these titles. That wraps up our May preview here at the box office. We'll be back with more guests and friends from the exhibition industry starting next week. New episodes of the Box Office podcast come out every Thursday, so don't forget to subscribe, rate, and if you really like what we do, leave a review. That always helps us get to new listeners out there. Thanks again, and we will talk to you again next week.